My phone rang. Sorry about that. This is part 2. Like I said, after all the rallying cries and protesting for housing for the homeless, finally the millions of dollars allocated towards homeless prevention is being used and put to good use under the leadership of Sakina Hope. We give thanks for her, all the other advocates who, stood behind her, side her. She want to give thanks to Baraka for having a vision, but we know this vision was way before, he even thought about it. If it was his vision, why now? Why now when you are homegrown and this pandemic been happening for years? Before getting in office, and definitely intensified while you was in office. So that is a serious problem right there. Homeless crisis intensified under your administration. Intensified. That means that from the Booker to now, the numbers has increased under your leadership. This is your vision, right? It should be. Numbers increased under your leadership. I wonder why. But anyway, we the Housing Advocates, we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to continue to hold you accountable. No matter what. That's what we're going to do. Now, I'm trying to go to the questions that I sent. Okay. The questions that I want was basically, and you should ask, the cost of the project, which they said was $900K. Okay, that's what they said. But you still should ask, who's the funding sources for the project? They gave a few people names. You still should get it for your own record. How was they being selected? That question was raised. And they said based on some system they had, but they was going to take all the chronically homeless people off the streets. So that means that everybody down on Penn Station shouldn't be there next week. Because those are the people that's chronically homeless. The ones around the highways shouldn't be around McCarter Highway. Because those are the chronically homeless individuals. Elders shouldn't be on the street sleeping. Veterans shouldn't definitely be in no containers. They should be housed somewhere. Okay, what are the amenities? So we've seen it for ourselves. They got a heating system. They got a sink, a bathroom there, shower there. I didn't see a washer and dryer. But they also going to be getting a free meal. So nobody asked the question, but you should ask this question. What is the city of Newark long-term plan to house the residents in shelters and are on the waiting list in the eviction courts? I think it's about they said about in Essex County alone, probably about 20,000 people or more waiting to go to court to be evicted once the moratorium. So that's another big problem. But we want long term. Like I said, this is supposed to be temporary. Then we also want to know about transitioning the millions of dollars that's being allocated. The city, housing authority, or whoever it is, the state, could transition those millions of dollars into vouchers. Vouchers, Section 8 vouchers. Housing TRA assistance until a person get, up on their feet after a year or two. That's what we want. We want more supportive housing for the chronically mentally ill. We want supportive transitional housing, supportive housing for the mentally ill, the veterans, and the elderly. And then most importantly, we need housing built here because there's a lack of housing. We have a lack of housing problem that meet the needs of the residents of the city. They taking Bassett Terrace, turning a low income public housing location into a market rate. We have to do away with that. We have to put an end to that. All the public housing, we want the majority of the amount. Now you can have some market rate if you want in there. You can mix it up, but we want the highest percentage of low income, because we're sick and tired of you taking these buildings, selling them for dirt cheap, like you did the one on Central Avenue in Halsey, a building that was housed there for the LGBT all around that area, the arts community. You took that property, which you could have sold to individuals from this community, $23,000. Almost a $2 million building you sold to outsiders for crumbs, $23,000. Explain this to me. Explain that to the residents of the city. Okay? But you could have took that building right there and turned it in, instead of a market rate with the individuals who are coming in there. You claimed that it was going to be 100% affordable at the area medium income of $50K, which was a lie. Thanks to Councilman Gonzalez for correcting McIver, who said it was going to be 100% affordable for the area medium of $50K. Low. Lies. It's up to $80K. 80, 50, and I think 60 and 50 or whatever. A mixed use. But that amount of money, all the money that came in for homeless prevention and housing assistance, you could have did something with that building right there for the residents, to meet the needs of the residents. When are you going to build housing to meet the needs of the residents? And then the land bank and stuff. Land bank for who? You sell all the good properties to the outside developers. You give them the tax abatements. Then you turn around and give them local, state, county, city, federal dollars along with it. But let it have been tax abatements for a resident buying something. You want to give them 5-year tax abatement. You give these individuals 30 years or tax exemption. Explain this to me. Explain this to me when we have a problem here with the lack of housing and the lack of giving contracts to the local developers and nonprofits and homeowners here. Are you giving out these incentives or funding for a local developer here? You gave the one up there on Avon Avenue. I think you got a 5-year tax abatement, as opposed to you giving this individual 30 in tax exemption. How dare you? But there's some discrimination with the land bank and stuff, And there's